The Ohio and Indiana Bar Associations require we give the addresses of the attorneys on the show. So today, of course, with us, Martin Young. Here's how to get in touch with him. And as always, Don Moore and Dan Moore on Nimitz View Drive, moorelaw.com. You can get all that information and information about all the attorneys we've had on the show at fox19.com. And just click on Moore Law. We are back for just a few more minutes. And Don, you wanted to make sure that there's a picture you wanted the viewers to see.
Well, the other thing I was going to mention is they can go back and look at shows. Sometimes we forget to remind people that they can go back and look at fox19.com, click on Moore Law, and you can see any of the shows we've done in the past. If there's a particular topic you're interested in, just go right back to it and watch it. A little graphic that I brought today was a photograph of a bus wreck that this is, if you recall, a few years ago, Bluffton College baseball team were headed down south to participate in a tournament. This is the bus they were in after they righted it on the highway. And we represented a person that was one of the boys in this bus crash. And it was an awful crash. A number of people were killed. Last week, there was a crash in Boston of a bus that wound up injuring and causing a lot of people a lot of trouble. Yesterday, there was a crash in California that wound up killing 8 people, all tour buses. Those are complicated cases. Something I thought would be interesting is basically you've got a lot of people looking for a little bit of insurance coverage. You think that, gee, a commercial bus, they've got $1 million worth of coverage or something in that order. But when you have people who are killed and you have a lot of people injured, suddenly they're scrambling for that coverage because there's not enough to go around. Then you look at things like the management company, whether they properly screened the driver and the driver was properly qualified. There may be negligence other than just on the road with the bus itself. There are other things that you look at like faulty products, in either no seat belts or inadequate seat belts or seat belts that failed or other crash worthiness issues. So you may be able to go back against the manufacturers. The bottom line is that not all traffic accidents are simple. Some are quite complicated. And it's very important that if you're involved in something where there's a serious injury, that's one of those, don't do this at home. You can't do it by yourself. You need to get help, and you need to get it as soon as you possibly can.
Okay. All right, well, let's see if we can offer some help to James. James, you had a question related to a DUI you received?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I was driving, and this guy just walked in front of me, and I've been drinking, and he'd been drinking, and I wasn't charged with the accident, but now he's trying to sue me and the insurance company.
But you said you did receive a DUI during the incident?
No, I did.
You did, okay.
So evidently he wasn't found at fault for the accident, Martin, and he said that the insurance company's handling it. Do you have advice for him?
Well, in Ohio we have comparative negligence, and so if whoever was at fault greater than 51% would be responsible. So if this pedestrian was under the influence and you perhaps were under the influence, the question becomes who was more at fault. If you over 51%, then there isn't a claim.
Aren't you more at fault if you are the one drinking and driving as opposed to drinking and walking?
Well, I thought he said he was not charged, and so therefore the question is a question of fact then as to his drinking. Mm-hmm. If he now, I don't know if there was a test or not taken, and he just was not charged. If he was a 0.8, then he of course would be at fault. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, and you bring up a really good point, Deb. The issue can be a term called proximate cause. And you can be really, really drunk, but if your drunkenness doesn't cause the wreck, well, you get charged with a DUI, but you're not responsible for the accident. He said this guy jumped in front of him. If that guy jumped in front of him and that's the reason there was an accident, it's all that guy's fault for jumping in front of him. The fact that he was drunk when he was driving had nothing to do with it. Now, his DUI, that's another story. He's going to have to pay for that. I saw a commercial recently where they said you just blew $10,000. That's about right. DUI is really expensive. So James has got troubles, that's for sure, but he may not be responsible for the wreck, and he's got insurance, which is good, and frankly, the insurance company, they're not going to pay this guy a nickel if they can get away with not paying it, and they'll defend him. So he's done what he should do. Turn it over to the insurance company and don't worry about it.
Okay. All right, and next up, let's see, we have Sue in Cincinnati. Sue, you were rear-ended, and it was an uninsured motorist?
That is correct, yes.
And so your question?
My question is, I've been told by my insurance company I have to finish treatment and return to work before I can collect any benefit payment from the uninsured motorist. Is that correct?
Well, the insurance company usually does not want to advance money until you are completely recovered. However, if you have health insurance, you could use that. Also on your policy, you might have medical pay benefits, and you could get assistance with that as well. So you have two other sources. One is medical pay benefits or with your health insurance.
And Don?
Yeah, and I always suggest that they use their medical coverage, their regular, like if they've got health coverage through work, that they use that first, because that's designed, they'll pay quickly, it'll go through, they may want their money back later on, but at least you're not going to be hassled by the medical care providers.
Okay. One question that I had, I think we finally have time for my question.
Your turn.
What I don't understand is this whole thing with fault versus no fault states. I mean, so basically you've told me that Kentucky's a no fault state, so if I'm taking my kids to the aquarium and somebody runs into me and I'm not doing anything wrong, it's still my insurance pays it?
Yeah, you've got PIP benefits as personal injury protection, and basically as long as your bills are under $1,000 or you don't have fracture of a weight-bearing bone or exceed one, or you don't have a permanent injury, then basically if you don't have any of those things, then you just make it against your own company. However, if you've got one of those things, you exceed the threshold, you get your PIP benefits, which is up to 10 grand, which is great, and you can make a claim against the other person just like you would in Ohio or any other state.
All right. I still don't know why it's that way, but nobody asked me. Let's see. I think we can do one more call. We have Patty in Ohio.
That's correct.
Good morning. Go ahead.
I just had a question. I was involved in an accident, and we're having difficulty settling the accident.
She kind of cut out. Did you hear all that?
I think it was just about they're just having trouble settling. She was in an accident and they're having, thank you. And so they're having trouble settling. And we just have about a minute to go ahead and answer her.
Well, if she's having trouble settling, she possibly would want to consult with an attorney or someone to assist her. It's kind of hard for an individual who's been in an accident, maybe just on one basis, to deal with the insurance company themselves. Their rights have to be protected, and my recommendation would be is to consult someone who can assist her and do a professional with an attorney.
Okay. I think you had something you wanted to add real quick?
We'll just, yeah, very quickly, people need to understand the insurance company is your opponent. They don't want to pay any more money than they have to, whether they're your insurance company or the other guy's insurance company, so be very careful.
Okay. Martin Young, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate having you. And next
Thanks,
week we're going to talk love and the law just in time for Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, Valentine's Day, here we go.
All right. Thanks for joining us on More Law. We will see you next Monday morning.